I'm Michael Meggs, and I am theater. I'm not from Texas, but as the local saying goes, I got here as quick as I could. In fact, when I was in college, I was powerfully tempted to be a drama major, but I took the safer way. I studied Spanish literature, but I did get a master's in international theater studies, which is comparative literature, but 9 hours of practical theater. Well, as it turned out, I joined the U.S. Diplomatic Service, and there was one point where there was a crucial interview for a staff job, and they asked me about my education, and I made the mistake of saying, well, I have a master's in international theater studies. And the eyebrows went up, and that was it for that particular job. But I can tell you, theater was terrifically useful as a U.S. diplomat abroad representing your country. Well, I retired, and I came to Austin, Texas, where I didn't know a soul. I figured I wanted to go to another foreign capital where they spoke a different language. I discovered not too long afterwards that there is a terrific, active, creative theater sector here in Austin, Texas. Now, Austin prides itself at being the live music capital of the United States, of the world. But at the same time, there was all this theater happening that wasn't being published, that wasn't being commented on, that wasn't being reviewed. Well, I started to blog, imitating my daughter's cooking blog. And after a while, my son, who was in computer science, set me up with a .com. For the last 4 years, I've been going out to theater 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week and writing about it. And I can tell you, this is one of the most creative points for theater in all of the United States. Forget the rankings. There are 2 major companies that have been here for a long time, Zach's Theater and Austin Playhouse. The first one has been here 78 years, and the other has been here for 11. But this town has got so many small, new, active, wildly creative theaters that they pop up as if they were mushrooms after the rain. I can recommend it to anyone who loves theater. Austin, Texas is, to use the current jargon, Austin theater is awesome. This is Michael Meggs in Austin, Texas, and I'm proud of it.
Hi, my name is Karina Dominguez. I live in Austin, Texas, and I am theater. One way that I feel that theater has really impacted my life personally is just in some of the work that I've done. I think that acting in general is seen as something very frivolous and not important, and I think that is something really wrong. I think that theater can be used to make a really intense and wonderful and life-saving impact. And I know this because I, for the past year, have been a part of a program with a company called Will Interactive that has written and I perform a play called Lifelines at Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas, that is part of the suicide awareness and prevention training for soldiers. And once a week, I and 3 other actors drive up to Fort Hood and perform scenarios, everyday life scenarios that the soldiers can relate to, whether it's peer-to-peer, soldier to soldier, commander to subordinate, or a family, and just talking about the signs, presenting it in a humorous way as well, but also really letting the soldiers know that these are things that they can do and things that they should look for. And there have been so many times leaving the show that we have been approached by soldiers thanking us for the performance and letting us know how strongly and how real the performance is and how much of a chord it has struck with them. I mean, to the point where we had a major who was able to get his 15-year-old suicidal son help. So I don't think that theater is anything frivolous or that should be overlooked in society. I think it's something that can actually be a life-saving tool. And so that's my little theater story. My name is Karina Dominguez. I live in Austin, Texas, and I am theater.
Hello, I'm Connor Hopkins of Trouble Puppet Theater in Austin, Texas, and I am theater. The moment that I have been thinking of all evening was a moment that happened in this last year during the production of a show of ours that it was sort of the third major production we had done in a 2-year span that was not something we had done before. It hadn't really been workshopped. It wasn't a remount. It was pretty new, and figured it was pretty much our chance to fall completely flat on our face, because it was a really weird story. It was very hard to understand. The language was very strange, and so I was prepared for people to just not understand it at all. But of course, I was hoping that they would. After the first performance, I went out in the lobby and I asked somebody, "So, what did you think?" And they said, "I'm not sure I understood it, but I'm totally okay with that." And I thought, well, you really can't ask for much more than that. I mean, if people can come see your show and not necessarily understand it, but still like it, and still feel like the experience was satisfying, then we're all in the same place. We're all doing the same thing. Not the same thing, but we're understanding each other, even if it's not on a entirely rational level, I suppose. And that was kind of the moment that I feel like settled me as an artist in theater. And it's just not really having to worry quite so much as I felt like I had to worry, because, well, you know, it reminds me of another time, now that I think about it. We were doing a show, and we do puppets. The company is called Trouble Puppet Theater Company. We do puppets. And at one point, there's all these characters following each other around the streets of London. And so I built this enormous maze, like a rat's maze, for a laboratory. Painted it black on one side, lighter on the other side, so that we could have it in the background of the show, and then flip it over all of a sudden and have this sort of maze laid out, and take these little hats that would stand in for the puppets and move them around, and these little eyeballs would pop out and look around. It was all just about intrigue and people following each other and spying on each other and all this kind of stuff. And there was a lot of, shall we say, lively discussion amongst the crew about whether or not anybody would have any idea why we were doing this, like if they would relate that to anything whatsoever. And I was all confident. Everybody's going to know exactly what that is. It's really obvious. And other people were like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And in the end, every single person I asked about it really liked it, but they all thought it was something completely different. Each one of them made up their own explanation for what it was and why it was there, and all of them were probably better than what I had originally intended. But they all made sense, or they didn't make sense in the same interchangeable way. It was just kind of like people explained it for themselves. People understood it, they took it in, they did something with it, and that kind of was even better than them understanding my idea. It was them taking whatever it was my idea was and making it into their own idea. So that was pretty good too. So that's two. Price of one.